Hey everyone, thank you for watching. Today's video is going to be a new Flashback Friday video, and I'm going to be taking it back to my last year beauty favorites video, my beauty favorites of 2016. I'm going to be going through all of the products that I listed off in that video as my yearly favorites and just chatting, where are they now? Do I still love them? Would I still consider them a favorite? Have I gotten rid of them? Are we on a break? I don't know, but I'm pretty excited to do this flashback video. So if you are ready to see my Flashback Friday for my 2016 Best of Beauty, why don't we go ahead and get started. So of course my 2016 Best of Beauty video will be linked down below. I just recently did my 2017 Best of Beauty video as well, so I will also have that one in the description box in case you are interested. But the first item that I mentioned last year was a foundation, and this was the L'Oreal True Match Lumi foundation. I do no longer have this foundation because I completely used it up. It's one of my favorite foundations. It still is a favorite foundation, and I'm still meaning to pick up another one of it because I enjoyed it so much. Another foundation that I mentioned that I love is again from L'Oreal. This is the Infallible Pro Glow foundation, and yes, this is still one of my favorite foundations as well, and this one is about empty. I really enjoyed this foundation. I enjoyed the coverage, I enjoyed the long wear, and I loved how glowy and fresh it made my skin look, so this one is definitely still a favorite. And the last foundation that I mentioned last year was from Clinique. This is the Beyond Perfecting Foundation and Concealer. Once again, still a favorite of mine. I recommend this one so much. It's full coverage, but it looks really nice on the skin. Like, this was the first more full coverage foundation that I actually liked. I thought it looked really nice on the skin, but it's also super long wearing. I recommend this a lot for like brides. Wore this one a lot when I was a bridesmaid, you know, getting ready in the morning, having all these photos, just a long day and night ahead of me. I was using the Clinique Beyond Perfecting, and yes, I would still recommend this guy. Moving on to some concealers, my favorite drugstore concealer that I mentioned was the Maybelline Fit Me Concealer, and again, yes, still a favorite. I have repurchased the Maybelline Fit Me Concealer so many times, I'm really not sure. I know it's on more than one hand that I have purchased the Maybelline Fit Me Concealers, and this one is looking pretty janky. I'm really kind of like scraping the sides of this one, but I love this concealer. I will definitely repurchase it. I think it's such a good option from the drugstore. And the high-end concealer that I mentioned last year, what could it have been? Of course it was the Tarte Shape Tape. Tarte Shape Tape like broke the internet last year. Everybody was so excited about the Shape Tape. I definitely was excited. I actually need a new one. This one is running pretty low, but I've had it for a very long time, so I know I just need to go out and get a new one, but I will repurchase the Shape Tape. It is pricey, but I really do like it. It's a really nice full coverage concealer, and it still is one of my favorites. I do recommend this one. I have found others, especially the Urban Decay one, that I like even more, and I mentioned the Urban Decay in my 2017 Best of Beauty video, but I like the Urban Decay one just a tiny bit more, but I would still repurchase the Shape Tape. I do like it, especially for when I really do need like full coverage under my eyes, then I enjoy that one. A powder that I mentioned that I really loved is the Maybelline Better Skin Skin Transforming Powder, and I do still really enjoy this one as well. This is what is usually in my clutch. I just find it really easy to slip inside my smaller clutch because it's still nice and compact, but this is a really nice powder, a nice mirror, and then I also like this kind of like sponge applicator. I think it's nice for my clutch because that way I don't have to worry about adding an extra brush in there. So I can use the powder and touch up when I'm out, you know, nights out or things like that. So I really enjoy this one still. I would still recommend this one. I just feel like it gives a really nice finish to the skin. And then my high-end powder that I recommended, that I loved on, was the Pure 4-in-1 Pressed Powder. I have been buying this pressed powder from Pure Cosmetics since I was in college. So just since last year. I'm just kidding. I've not been to college for a very long time. But I have been repurchasing this powder for years and years, and it still is one of my favorites. And yes, I would still highly recommend this. I love wearing this in the summer. Like sometimes if I just wear a BB cream, I'll put some of this powder on top, or even if I don't need the BB cream, if I feel like my skin's doing pretty well, I'll just put some of the powder on, even out my skin tone. Still one of my favorites. This is from Wet n Wild. This is the Mega Glow Contouring Palette. I still love this one as well. Yeah, I'm really happy to see this trend. Hopefully we keep it rolling throughout the video. But yeah, I still really enjoyed this one, and I actually broke my original one that I bought, and I went out and repurchased it because I was like, no, I still want this in my collection. I really enjoyed it, and it was like $5, so it wasn't bad to replace. But I have a setting powder here that I put for my under eyes, and then also a really nice contour shade. Beautiful, big pan, and again, I really do like this one. I had to go out and repurchase it when I broke the first one. Another setting powder that I put in there was from Laura Mercier. This is the Secret Brightening Powder, and I still really enjoy this one. I actually just recommended it the other day. Someone asked, I think it was on a YouTube video, what my favorite setting powder is. I give a high-end and a drugstore option, and still my high-end is the Laura Mercier Secret Brightening Powder. I love the bright under eyes that it gets, even though I've kind of gone away from setting powders. Like last year, I used to bake a ton. I was always baking. I thought it was like something that you had to do. If you did the tutorials and the Instagram tutorials and stuff, like you had to bake your face. But I've kind of gotten away from that because I thought it was kind of like an extra step that I didn't really need in my makeup routine. But if I am going out somewhere, or I'm going to be gone all day, or at like a special event, I do like to set my makeup, and I really like to use this on my under eyes. Another product that I mentioned in there was this NYX. This is the Sculpt and Highlight Face Duo. So you have a concealer on one end and then a contour on the other end. I really liked this guy, but I feel like I don't really love it so much anymore, and I barely reach for this. What I noticed with this one is that you get very little product, like on each end. If it tells you, you get 1.7 fluid ounces on each end, and I noticed very quickly that I was going through almost all of it, and I kept having to dip back in. Like even doing just one under eye, I was having to come in like 3, 4, 5 times, constantly back and forth to get the right amount of concealer on my under eyes. So yeah, I don't love it as much as I did last year, and I've kind of stopped reaching for it. Another one that I had in there was from Pure Cosmetics, and it was the Cameo Contour Stick, and I cannot find mine for the life of me. I know I didn't declutter it, so I don't know where it went. I did repaint my office this year, and I had to move everything out, of course, while we paint it, and I know some makeup got lost in the shuffle along the way, so I don't know if my Cameo Contour just rolled away somewhere, or if I put it in a drawer and forgot about it. I don't know, but I went looking for it, and I could not find it. But that was the first time I realized that I couldn't find my Cameo Contour Stick in quite some time, so that kind of tells me that I don't love it as much as I once did. I did do a ton of cream contouring last year, and I was really reaching for that for the contour side of it. I've noticed more lately, like within this past year, I've definitely been switching to more powders and kind of like my contour palettes. I really fell in love with face palettes this year, so I didn't reach for that one as much because it was just easier for me to reach into a face palette. But yeah, I don't love that one as much as I did, and I'm kind of embarrassed that I don't even realize that went missing. That's pretty sad. An affordable bronzer that I was loving on was Physicians Formula Butter Bronzer. I still do really love this bronzer. I have mine in the shade Light, which is really good for me right now during the winter time when I am a little bit paler. I just busted this one out again the other day. I still like the way it smells. It still smells really nice, and I did do a recent bronzer declutter, and I was like, no, I cannot get rid of the Physicians Formula Butter Bronzer. And these are pricey for drugstore. So I was like, yeah, no, I'm keeping it. And then the high-end bronzer that I mentioned was from Too Faced. This is the Chocolate Soleil matte bronzer, and I actually did, this is another sample size, and I decluttered my original deluxe sample size in my bronzer declutter, but I decluttered it because I was like, well, I know I've had it for a long time. It probably does just need to be tossed because it's been open for a very long time. And I was like, and I know I got it back up. I got it in like an Ipsy bag or some sort of subscription bag, so I knew that I had this one on hand as well, so I didn't feel so bad decluttering it because I knew I have this one ready to go. So yeah, I do still really enjoy this bronzer. It's one of my favorites. It's just a solid bronzer. That's really all I can say. So a favorite affordable blush that I mentioned last year was from Milani. This is the Luminoso blush, the baked powder blush. Yeah, this was and I mean, still, I feel like still is considered a cult favorite on YouTube. I bought it because everybody was recommending it, and in my blush declutter, I had to keep around Luminoso. It's such a beautiful blush, especially for spring, summer. That's when I really love it. It's just a nice peachy kind of glowy blush. It's beautiful, but still love it, still recommend it. I also put in there this Smashbox Blush Trio. This is the LA Lights Blush and Highlight Palette in Culver City Coral. I really like these, and I felt like nobody talked about them. I was using mine all of the time. It has 2 really nice blush shades in here and a highlight. I think they're all really pretty. I will say I don't reach into this one quite as much as I used to. I know last year I got a ton of use out of this one, and I really enjoyed it, but lately I don't reach for this one quite as much. So that's kind of a bummer. I need to, this like reminds me that I should pull this one back out because I really did enjoy it. And again, I thought like nobody talked about it, which I thought was weird. This one was a very hyped up palette. This is from Becca Cosmetics in collaboration with Jaclyn Hill. It was the Champagne Glow Face Palette. This palette has gotten so much love from me. I still love this palette. I think it is absolutely fantastic. It has blushes, it has highlights, it has Champagne Pop, Prosecco Pop. I mean, I love this palette so much. Just so, I mean, it's just, yeah, it's still a fave. Still a fave, and it's super dirty. A couple liners that I had in there. These are from Colourpop, and they are their gel eyeliners. I love these pencil liners from Colourpop. I recommend them so much. I use them so much. I have like, I don't even know, 6 different colors maybe, and I want even more. They're like $5 or $6. They're very creamy on the waterline, and they're super long lasting. Like, I think this is the longest lasting drugstore eyeliner that I have ever tried. So good. If you're placing an order with Colourpop and you need to spend just a few dollars more for like your free shipping or whatnot, I recommend checking out the gel liners. I also put in there this Maybelline pencil. This is the Master Precise Skinny Eyeliner. I remember loving this so much. I think I actually bought 2 of these. Like I went through one and rebought another one. But as I started trying more and more eyeliners from different brands, different companies, I realized that I didn't love this one quite as much. I feel like it's so light and so faint, and it does fade pretty quickly. So I don't know if maybe this one was just a bad one, because I remember loving the first one so much and then being super underwhelmed by this one. So I don't know if I got a bad one with this one or what it was, but yeah, I barely reach for this one anymore because I feel like I have a lot better eyeliners out there. And then this other liner is from Sigma. This is the Wicked Gel Liner, and this one got a lot of love from me. I have hit pan at the bottom. It's kind of a hot mess in there. I feel like I probably just need to declutter this one and get a new one. I really do enjoy the Sigma gel liners. If you're a big gel liner fan, I do say to check out the Sigma one. I had this one for so long. It did not dry out on me, and I thought it was really easy to apply. I've kind of gotten away from gel liners in 2017 as well. Lately, it's just been more of like the liquid liners, regular pencil liners that I've been using to make my wings, but if you love gel liner, the Sigma one is good. So another eyeliner that I had mentioned in there was from IT Cosmetics. It was their gel liner, and I love that liner so much. I had a little deluxe sample size version of it, and I lost it somewhere. And I was devastated about it, and I was like, for sure I'm going to be repurchasing it, and then I never did. And when I saw that come up on the list, I was like, man, I always meant to repurchase that liner, but I never did it. Oh, so sad. But moving on, I did also put on there the Marc Jacobs Glow Stick. I think this was just called, it was called Spotlight, the Spotlight Glow Stick. So it's just a cream highlight. I do still really like this one, and I do like wish to keep it around in my collection, but I notice I wear this more in the summertime. It's just really nice and easy to kind of like rub my finger around in there, this deodorant stick-like looking highlight, and then just tap it onto the cheekbones for a really nice, not subtle, it's not subtle at all, but just a really nice glow, summertime glow. That's mostly when I use this guy, or if I'm using a highlight that I really like but it needs more of an emphasis, I will put a cream down first, and typically I reach for the Marc Jacobs Glow Stick. So I still do really like this one. I don't think I would consider it a favorite anymore, but I still do like it. And then moving on to some palettes, I had in there the BH Cosmetics and Carly Bible palette. Now this is the original one. This is the 14 color eyeshadow and highlight palette, and they redid the palette. They made a bigger one for 2017, and I actually did feature that one in my favorites video as well. Definitely a step up from this palette for sure. The eyeshadows were better. You got more quantities in there, and the highlights were freaking phenomenal in the newer palette. I don't think this one is for sale anymore. I think that they were discontinuing it when the new one came out, but I would have said to get the new one. So I think when I do my eyeshadow palette declutter, which is coming soon, I think I can go ahead and say goodbye to this one, because if I'm reaching for these shades, these tones, I'm reaching for the newer palette. But I still really enjoyed this one. This was a birthday gift, and I really, really liked it. And then also in there, I had the Too Faced Sweet Peach palette. Oh my gosh, this palette, I remember there was so much craziness around it. I was at my Ulta store at like 10 o'clock when it opened trying to get the peach palette, and it was just like madness. I do really enjoy this palette. I reached for it a ton. Oh my gosh, I reached for this palette so much. Like when I first got it, it was one of those things where I was telling myself, you have to use something else, but I felt like I created so many different looks with it. I love the way that it smelled. I love the mattes and shimmers. Yeah, this one went with me everywhere. I took a break from Too Faced at the end of 2016. We're currently still on a break, and it kind of made me not reach for this one as much. I was kind of going for my other palettes, but I do still like it, and I do still think it's a really nice palette. I just wouldn't consider it so much of a favorite anymore. The other one that I had in there is the Smashbox Photo Matte Eyes Eyeshadow Palette. I feel like I talked about this palette all the time. I know I put it in an underrated makeup video because I felt like nobody talked about this one either. Same with the Smashbox Blush Palette. I really liked them. It did come with a brush, and I use this brush a ton. I don't really use brushes a lot in palettes, but I actually really like that brush. And this is what the palette looked like. It reminded me a bit of like the Kat Von D Shade and Light palette with just an all matte palette, a lot of very neutral colors. But I like this one because it gave me even more shades. Like there was a really cool kind of like a denim blue over here. There was a pink over here. I used this palette so much. I was doing so many different tutorials with it, both on YouTube and Instagram. I really liked it, and I just have not been able to find myself to letting it go yet. Like I still enjoy this palette so freaking much. The palette that I had in there was from Morphe. This is the 350, the original 350 palette. Again, another palette that I just absolutely loved. It took me so long to get this palette because it was always sold out. When I finally got it, I was so excited, and again, I loved this palette. I used it so much. It's very dirty, especially for me. I'm like very light-handed when it comes to my makeup, but to me, like this is a dirty palette, and it kind of drives me crazy. With the revamped 350 that came out and the Morphe Jaclyn Hill palette, both of which I featured in my 2017 video, I very rarely reach for this one anymore, but I did enjoy it. I know I definitely got, it was like $22 or something. I definitely got my $20 worth from that palette. Another one I had in there, this one is from Tarte. It's the Tarte and Styled by Harouche palette. Inside you got 6 eyeshadows and then also a blush. Again, this is another palette that I talked about so freaking much. I love this palette so much. I took it traveling with me all of the time, and again, I loved it. I was telling people, you know, I know it's limited edition, it's a collaboration, but get it, get it, get it. It was like $30. Still one of my favorite palettes. Still take it with me. I love it. And then the other palette that I mentioned for a favorite was probably one that everybody mentioned as a favorite. This is the Anastasia Beverly Hills Modern Renaissance palette. Yeah, it's still a favorite of mine. I still take it with me so much. I was a bridesmaid back in May, and this is the palette that I used. I love this palette. Still highly enjoy it. Still would consider the Modern Run a favorite. I also had some eyeshadow singles that I mentioned last year. These two are from Colourpop, and they are their Super Shock shadows, and it is in Truth and Lala. I did love these shadows. I used these together so often. I would put Lala in the crease and all over my lid, and then I would come in and just put Lala, which is a beautiful like shimmer rose gold. I'd put that all over the eyes, pop on some mascara, and I was good to go. It was like my go-to look. I really did enjoy these colors, but overall the Colourpop Super Shock shadows, they're just not a favorite. I felt like I tried so hard getting into them because everybody hyped them up, and everybody on YouTube would show their giant collections of like their 50, 60 single Colourpop eyeshadows, and I remember feeling so much pressure to buy them. And like, yes, they were only $5, but I also remember hitting pan on one of them really, really fast. So I was like, wait a second, I'm almost done with this eyeshadow. Like, how is this even possible? No wonder it's only $5. But yeah, I definitely wouldn't consider the Colourpop Super Shock shadows my favorites anymore. I barely reach for these. Pulling these out kind of made me a little nostalgic though, because I did that eye look so often. But I definitely recommend the Colourpop pressed eyeshadows. I think they are miles better than these Super Shock shadows, and they did make it into my 2017 favorites as well. I had some more here from Anastasia Beverly Hills. I mentioned her single shadows in Birkin and then also Burnt Orange. I did really like these shadows, but I barely reach for this quad anymore of these singles. I am typically always going into the Modern Renaissance instead, and actually Burnt Orange is in the Modern Renaissance as well. But Birkin I really like is like the classic transition shade, but again, I feel like I find those so much in my palettes, and I know a lot of people like to buy singles because they kind of like to put their own little palettes together, but I'm like, I don't have time for that. Like, I need my palettes. That's what I enjoy. And when I'm creating an eye look, I like going into one palette. Like, yes, I can reach in for another one for, you know, your matte white or whatever it is you need, your brow bone highlight, whatever it is. But the majority of my look, I want to create with one palette. That's just who I am personally. And I know a lot of people are very different. But yeah, I barely reach into these Anastasia shadows. Oh, that's kind of a bummer. I mentioned 3 mascaras last year, none of which I no longer have. I went through all of them. The Maybelline Lash Sensational, to me that's one of the like best drugstore mascaras. I repurchased that one 2 or 3 different times, I believe it was. I really, really enjoyed that mascara. I have used it up fully though. The other one that I mentioned was the Smashbox X-Rated mascara. I just got rid of that one, I believe, in my most recent mascara declutter. I'm pretty sure because it was basically like fully used up and I knew I had it open for a while. Again, that is a bomb mascara, like bomb mascara. If you were looking for a good one to try, I feel like Smashbox has so many good products and nobody talks about them. Why is that? But the X-Rated mascara was so good. And then the other mascara that I mentioned was the Benefit Roller Lash. That's what it was. The Benefit Roller Lash, to me, the Maybelline Lash Sensational is almost like dupe-like to the Benefit Roller Lash, and it's probably why I love both of them. The Roller Lash makes the lashes really long and gives them a nice curl, and it was one of my first like high-end mascaras that I really fell in love with. I know I did repurchase the Benefit Roller Lash as well. I have used up all of them since, but all 3 I would still say a favorite, and all 3 I would definitely still recommend. I put into my favorites video last year the Ardell Wispy Lashes. I was a huge fan of the Ardell lashes. Especially when I first started my channel, they were so affordable, and I thought that they were really easy to use, but they were also some of the first lashes that I ever really used. And I mentioned this in a video once, I think it was makeup I changed my mind about, and I was chatting about the Maybelline Fit Me foundations, and I said that I used to love those foundations so much, but as I started trying others, I realized that there was better out there, and I felt like that's kind of what happened with the Ardell. Because they were some of the first lashes I was using, I was like, these are amazing, these are bomb, these are great. And then as I tried more lashes and more brands and more styles, I was like, oh, they aren't quite as good as I thought they were because there's better out there. Have you guys had that happen to you with any products? Because I feel like that definitely happened to me with the Ardell Wispies. I do not remember the last time I purchased an Ardell pair of lashes. After I went back to them, like I tried out a bunch of different brands. You know, I put Pure and Blinking Beauty in my favorites video for 2017, but I went back to Ardell at one point and I tried to apply their lashes and I struggled. I struggled so much. I didn't like the way that they looked on my eyes, and I was shocked. I honestly was shocked. I do still recommend them if you are trying to learn lashes because they are affordable. I know there's other affordable brands too that you can get at the drugstore. If you're trying and you're practicing, I recommend practice on a cheaper pair. Like, don't go out and buy the Blinking Beauty $25 lashes and then try to figure out what you're doing, because that's going to be a bit of a waste of money. But I would still recommend it for that, but there's just so many more favorites I have now. I would not be able to consider Ardell a favorite. So weird. I also had in there the Eyelure and Vegas Nail lashes, and no, those are no longer favorites either. I feel like that was another thing where everybody was talking about these lashes and I was like, you love them, girl, you know you love them. And even though they were harder for me to work with, when I had them on, I liked them, but they were so hard to put on. And I finally realized that even though I like the end effect of them, that there are so many other lashes that pop on so easier, the bands are so much easier to work with, and I didn't need to like keep trying to force myself to love the Eyelure lashes because there's so many other lashes out there. I also did have in there the Huda Samantha lashes, which I do still have. I should have pulled those out. I do still like the Huda lashes, but again, I think that I'm moving towards other lashes that I love even more. Still really do like them. I feel like I would still consider them a favorite. I've repurchased them a lot. I wear the Samantha ones a ton. But again, I'm finding more lash brands more and more that I enjoy. Lashes that I mentioned there were the Eye Slay and Makeup Shayla lashes. I loved those lashes so much. I wore them so often. It kind of makes me want to see if they are still available. I knew that they were limited edition, but I thought maybe they were bringing them back. And now I kind of want to see if I can find them again because, man, I loved those lashes. I wore them all the time. They were super like unique and different for me. They were kind of more like shorter and spikier, but I thought that they were so cool on. I'm gonna have to see if those are still around. Did anybody else have the Eye Slay and Makeup Shayla lashes? I almost forgot about those. I no longer have them, but man, did I enjoy those. Alrighty, home stretch here. Next up, I had some brow products. These are both from Benefit. I mentioned the Goof Proof and also the Gimme Brow. The Goof Proof is definitely still a favorite of mine. I reach for this so much. I've gone through pencils. I go back and forth between the shades 2 and 3, and it's just one of my favorites. I also mentioned the Gimme Brow, and this kind of takes me back because you guys might know I was on YouTube for probably 6 to 8 months without doing my brows, and wow, people were angry about that one. It's so funny because people are like, oh, can't take you seriously because you wear lashes and you have fake nails. I'm like, yeah, I didn't do my brows for almost a full year. So like, what? That just always makes me laugh to this day. But when I got the Gimme Brow, it's kind of like the fiber. It looks like a mascara one. It has fibers in here. This is all that I would do for my brows before I'd film. I'd be like, fine, I'm gonna do my brows. Boop, 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 boop. Done. That's what I did. Now I only use the Gimme Brow to kind of help set my brows or to give them a little bit more fullness as well, but I have thus entered the land of doing my eyebrows. Thank you so much. Big year, big step over here for me. The Goof Proof, definitely still a fave. Gimme Brow, just okay for me now. A couple tools that I mentioned. I talked about the Beauty Blender, like the original Beauty Blender. I have pretty much since moved on from the Beauty Blender. The Beauty Blender was $20. I went through so many of them. I purchased so many of them, the nude, the black, the pink. Oh my gosh, I had them all. And I just realized that they're expensive. And there's a lot of other brands that make really good ones. I think I mentioned 4 beauty sponges in the 2017 video, and I know off the top of my head, L'Oreal, Morphe, Flower Beauty, those are all affordable. What was my 4th sponge that I mentioned? Oh, SL Miss Glam. SL Miss Glam isn't that affordable, but the 3 out of the 4 that I named are affordable, way cheaper than the $20. So I just don't really go for the Beauty Blender anymore. Too pricey for me. And then the other one that I mentioned in my video was the Real Techniques Diamond Sponge. Man, I loved the Diamond Sponge. I bought like 2 or 3 of them. But what I realized with the Diamond Sponge and why I stopped purchasing them after a while was that mine was breaking, like ripping too fast when I would be washing it. And that's why I had to buy so many of them. And you know, I blamed it on me. You know, it's my fault. Soap is too rough. My nails were digging into it. It was a cloudy day. I don't know what was going on, but I kept blaming myself for it. And then finally I was like, I think it's the sponge. I think it's the sponge that's doing it. So I stopped purchasing the Diamond Sponge. But yeah, the other ones that I mentioned, gosh, I feel like this video is going to be so interesting if I do the flashback video next year, because like I want to see where these all stand up. But yeah, neither beauty sponge I would consider a favorite anymore. Huh. Let's get ready for some lip products. I mentioned quite a few last year, and oh look, all nudes. Would you look at that? How shocking. I've really evolved, haven't I? The first one that I mentioned was from Maybelline. This is one of their Color Jolt, excuse me, in Strip Down. Yeah, I still love this one. I decluttered the orange that I had when I did a lipstick declutter, but I had to keep this one. I love the color. I love how juicy it makes the lips look. I also mentioned the NYX Soft Matte Lip Creams, specifically in London and then also Abu Dhabi. I've been filming for a really long time, okay? This is gonna be a very long video. But yeah, these are some of my absolute favorite nudes. I highly recommend the NYX Soft Matte Lip Creams. They're affordable. They are really nice. And then, let's see, I also mentioned the NYX Lip Lingeries. Still really enjoy these. I know not a lot of people did. You will see these featured in an upcoming video I'm doing, but I still really like the lip lingeries, specifically in Bedtime Flirt and Ruffle Trim. Some of my favorites. I still reach for them. Still would recommend them as well. I also chatted about some Colourpop and Kathleen Lights lipsticks. The only one that I still have right now is in Point Zero. This is an Ultra Satin Lip. Point Zero is just such a unique, like cool toned gray color. I had to keep this around, but I have not really been loving the Colourpop Ultra Mattes specifically, but also the Ultra Satins. I feel like the formula goes bad way too fast, so when I did my last lipstick declutter, I really decluttered a lot of the Colourpop lippies because I knew that they weren't really good anyways, but I did want to keep this one around because I feel like it's a really unique shade. I also had in there from Kat Von D the Bow and Arrow lipstick, one of her Everlasting liquid lipsticks. I had to go into my purse and dig this one out because I just wore it the other weekend. I love this. I mentioned Ludwig in my 2017 video. I really enjoyed the Kat Von D formula. Bow and Arrow is just one of my favorite nude browns. And then I also mentioned in there the Huda Beauty liquid matte lipsticks. I mentioned Trendsetter and Bombshell. I still love both of those shades. I still love the Huda Beauty liquid mattes. I just purchased another set of 4 in the Sephora VIB sale. I've purchased like 7 or 8 Huda Beauty lipsticks, and I still really enjoy them. And then after the lip products, that is it for this Flashback Friday video. Whew, this is gonna be a long one, but I know a lot of people have been asking if I would do this one as well because I've been having a lot of fun doing the Flashback Fridays for some of my past hauls and things like that, so I thought touching on the 2016 favorites would be really interesting. I feel like majority-wise, I still really love, enjoy, would recommend a lot of the products from 2016, but there was definitely those items that I changed my mind about, that I decluttered, and that I don't love or would really recommend anymore, so that was really interesting. It was fun to take a trip down memory lane and flashback to 2016. 2016. I can't believe how fast 2017 went. Honestly, this year went by so fast. I'm so excited to see what 2018 brings. I cannot wait. But like I said, I'll have both my 2016 and 2017 Best of Beauty videos down below in case you are interested in checking any of them out. I would love to know your feedback as well. And if there's any Flashback Friday videos that you want me to do in the future, let me know any topics you might have. But other than that, if you guys did enjoy this video, I hope that you will give it a thumbs up. I hope that you will also consider subscribing before you go, and I will catch you guys in my next video.